The Nobel secret that could add 20 years to your life. What if I told you that right now, as you're watching this video, your body has a secret weapon? A built-in system so powerful that understanding it earned a Japanese scientist the Nobel Prize. And it could be the difference between living to 75 or living to 95. This isn't some expensive supplement or miracle drug. It's already inside you. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how to turn it on. Hey there, health warriors. Welcome back to the channel. I'm Dr. Jason Carter, and today we're diving deep into one of the most incredible discoveries in modern medicine. A process so important that it revolutionized how we think about aging, disease prevention, and longevity. But before we jump in, I want to hear from our amazing community around the world. Drop a comment right now and tell me, what city or state are you watching from? I love seeing our global family come together to learn about health. Now picture this. What if your body had its own personal cleaning crew? Not just any cleaning crew, but an elite team that works 24/7, hunting down damaged cells, broken proteins, and cellular trash that could turn into cancer, Alzheimer's, or heart disease. Think about your house for a second. What happens when you stop taking out the trash? When you stop cleaning? The place gets toxic, right? Pests move in, things start breaking down. Your home becomes a breeding ground for problems. Well, the same thing happens in your body. But here's the mind-blowing part. You have a built-in system that can prevent this cellular chaos. It's called autophagy, and when a Japanese scientist figured out exactly how it works, it changed everything. Stick with me for the next 15 minutes, because what you're about to learn could literally add decades to your life. And I'm going to show you the simple, and I mean simple, way to activate this process, starting today. 1. Meet the hero and the cellular mystery. Let me introduce you to our hero, Dr. Yoshinori Ohsumi. Picture a quiet, determined scientist in Japan who decided to study something most researchers thought was boring: cellular garbage disposal. While other scientists were chasing flashy discoveries, Ohsumi was fascinated by a simple question: what happens to the junk inside our cells? And folks, this question would change the world. Here's what we knew before Ohsumi's breakthrough. Scientists understood that our cells are like tiny cities. Each cell has mitochondria, the power plants, ribosomes, the protein factories, the nucleus, city hall where all the decisions are made. But there was a mystery. In any functioning city, you need garbage collection, right? What happens to all the cellular waste? Imagine if New York City stopped collecting trash. Within days, the streets would be overflowing, disease would spread, the whole system would collapse. That's exactly what happens in our bodies when cellular cleanup fails. And here's where it gets scary. Stick with me, because what Ohsumi discovered will blow your mind. Scientists knew there were these things called lysosomes. Think of them as garbage trucks filled with powerful enzymes that could break down cellular waste. They even had a name for the process, autophagy, which literally means self-eating in Greek. But nobody knew how it worked. How does a cell decide what's trash and what's treasure? How does it package up the garbage? How does it make sure the good stuff doesn't get thrown away? This wasn't just academic curiosity, folks. This was the key to understanding aging, cancer, Alzheimer's, and dozens of other diseases that steal our golden years. In 1988, Ohsumi made a decision that would change medicine forever. Instead of studying complex human cells, he chose to study something humble: baker's yeast. You know, the stuff we use to make bread. People thought he was crazy, but sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from the smallest places. 2. The eureka moment, making the invisible visible. Here's where Ohsumi showed the kind of genius that wins Nobel Prizes. He had a problem. Autophagy happens so fast, it's invisible, like trying to photograph lightning. So he did something brilliant. He created mutant yeast cells where the garbage trucks could pick up the trash, but couldn't dump it. Then he starved these cells to force them to start their cleanup process. What happened next was like watching magic through a microscope. For the first time in human history, someone could actually see autophagy happening. Little bubble-like containers packed with cellular junk started piling up inside the cells. If you're finding this as fascinating as I am, smash that like button right now. And don't forget to subscribe. We're building an incredible community of health-conscious folks who want to age like champions. Between the 1990s and 2000s, Ohsumi and his team worked like detectives, identifying the 15 essential genes that control this entire process. They figured out how cells recognize damaged proteins, how they wrap them up in special membranes, how these packages travel through the cell, how they're broken down and recycled. But here's what makes this discovery so incredible. Autophagy isn't just about throwing out trash, it's about recycling. When your cells break down damaged proteins, they don't just disappear. They get converted into amino acids that can be used for energy or to build brand new healthy cellular components. It's like having a recycling plant inside every single one of your 37 trillion cells. Old broken parts get melted down and turned into shiny new machinery. And folks, this is where it gets really exciting for us. Because if we can control this process, and we can literally slow down aging and fight disease at the cellular level. But how do we flip this switch? How do we activate our body's built-in renewal system? That's coming up next, and it's simpler than you might think. 3. The trigger, the fasting breakthrough. All right, here's where the rubber meets the road. How do we actually control autophagy? How do we tell our cells, hey, it's time for spring cleaning? The answer takes us back millions of years. Our ancestors didn't have 24/7 access to food. They couldn't swing by McDonald's whenever they felt peckish. They went through periods of feast and famine. And guess what? Our bodies evolved to not just survive these periods, but to thrive during them. Here's how it works. When you're constantly eating, your cells are in abundance mode. There's always glucose coming in. Insulin levels stay high. A cellular sensor called mTOR is activated, sending the message, we've got plenty of fuel, time to grow and multiply. In this state, autophagy takes a back seat. Why recycle when there's plenty of new material coming in? But when you fast, and I'm talking about giving your digestive system a real break for 12 to 16 hours, everything changes. Glucose levels drop, insulin falls, the mTOR sensor gets turned off. It's like a master switch gets flipped in every cell of your body. The message changes from grow and multiply to clean house and optimize for survival. Your cells become incredibly efficient. They start hunting through their internal storage, looking for anything they can use for fuel. And what do they find? All that accumulated junk, damaged proteins, worn-out mitochondria, cellular debris that could become toxic. Picture your cells rolling up their sleeves and saying, all right, time to eat our own mistakes and turn them into fuel. It's cellular cannibalism at its finest, but in the smartest, most beneficial way possible. Studies from Harvard, MIT, and Johns Hopkins have shown that this fasting-induced autophagy can clear toxic proteins linked to Alzheimer's, remove damaged mitochondria that cause fatigue, eliminate precancerous cells before they become dangerous, reduce inflammation throughout the body. I'm curious, have any of you experimented with fasting? Drop a comment and share your experience. This community learns so much from each other. Now, fasting isn't the only way to activate autophagy. Intense exercise, ketogenic diets, and even certain compounds like resveratrol can flip this switch. But fasting remains the most reliable and researched method. But why does this matter so much? What diseases are we actually fighting when we activate autophagy? That's what we're covering next, and trust me, this information could save your life. 4. The health benefits. Fighting our biggest enemies. Let's talk about the diseases that scare us most as we age. Cancer, Alzheimer's, heart disease, diabetes. What if I told you that autophagy could be our secret weapon against all of them? Let's start with cancer. Cancer begins when a single cell goes rogue. It ignores the rules, starts multiplying uncontrollably, and tries to take over your body. Autophagy works like an internal security system. It identifies these damaged, potentially cancerous cells and eliminates them before they can cause trouble. It's like having a bouncer in every cell, checking IDs and throwing out the troublemakers. Now, the relationship between autophagy and cancer is complex. In established tumors, cancer cells can sometimes hijack this process for their own survival. But for prevention, the research is clear. Strong autophagy is protective. A landmark study published in Nature showed that mice with defective autophagy developed tumors at 3 times the normal rate. 3 times! That's not a small difference, folks. Now let's talk about what might scare us even more than cancer: losing our minds to dementia. Alzheimer's disease is characterized by the buildup of toxic protein plaques in the brain, specifically beta-amyloid and tau proteins. These plaques literally suffocate and kill brain cells. Maybe you've watched a parent or grandparent slip away to this disease. Maybe you've wondered if those same plaques are building up in your own brain right now. Here's the good news. Autophagy is your brain's janitorial service. It's specifically designed to clear out these toxic protein clumps before they can accumulate and cause damage. Studies from Columbia University found that people with higher autophagy activity had significantly lower rates of cognitive decline. We're talking about potentially adding years of sharp, clear thinking to your life. Autophagy also plays a crucial role in metabolic health. It helps clear out damaged mitochondria, your cellular power plants, and replaces them with efficient new ones. This means better energy, improved insulin sensitivity, and protection against type 2 diabetes. Perhaps most importantly, autophagy is a powerful anti-inflammatory process. Chronic inflammation is now recognized as the root cause of most age-related diseases. By clearing out inflammatory triggers at the cellular level, autophagy addresses the problem at its source. If this information is opening your eyes to new possibilities for your health, make sure you're subscribed with notifications on. We dive deep into cutting-edge health research every week, and I don't want you to miss a single breakthrough. Recent research has even shown that autophagy helps your immune system fight off viruses and bacteria more effectively. During the COVID-19 pandemic, researchers found that people with better autophagy function had milder symptoms and faster recovery times. The evidence is overwhelming, folks. Autophagy isn't just some interesting biological process. It's potentially the key to living longer, healthier, and with more vitality. But how do we put this knowledge into practice? 5. Practical application, your action plan. All right, let's get practical. You understand science, you know the benefits. Now, how do you actually harness this power in your daily life? First, let's talk about intermittent fasting, the most reliable way to activate autophagy. And before you panic thinking you'll be starving yourself, let me put your mind at ease. The most popular and sustainable approach is called 16.8 intermittent fasting. You fast for 16 hours and eat within an 8-hour window. For most people, this means skipping breakfast and eating between, say, noon and 8 p.m. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 68-year-old viewer from Arizona who started 16.8 fasting 6 months ago. She wrote to tell me that her energy levels have skyrocketed, her brain fog has lifted, and her doctor was amazed at her improved blood work. Margaret said it was the easiest lifestyle change she'd ever made. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. I've been told breakfast is the most important meal of the day. Here's the truth. That idea was largely created by cereal companies in the early 1900s. There's no biological requirement to eat first thing in the morning. If 16 hours sounds intimidating, start smaller. Begin with a 12-hour fast, say 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. Most of that is sleep anyway. Once that feels comfortable, gradually extend to 14 hours, then 16. Combine your fasting with exercise for an even bigger autophagy boost. Working out in a fasted state, like taking a morning walk before your first meal, can significantly amplify the cellular cleanup process. When you do eat, focus on nutrient-dense whole foods. Think colorful vegetables, lean proteins, healthy fats, and minimal processed foods. You're giving your cells the best building materials for the reconstruction phase. Stay well hydrated during your fasting period. Water, herbal tea, and black coffee are all fine. They won't break your fast, and they'll help with any initial hunger pangs. Who's ready to try this? Comment Autophagy if you're committed to giving intermittent fasting a shot this week. Let's support each other in this journey to better health. Now, this is crucial. If you have any medical conditions, especially diabetes, or if you're taking medications, please consult with your healthcare provider before starting any fasting regimen. We want to work with your body, not against it. Beyond fasting, other lifestyle factors can boost autophagy. Regular exercise, especially strength training, adequate sleep, 7 to 9 hours per night, stress management through meditation or yoga, limiting alcohol consumption, including autophagy-supporting foods like green tea, turmeric, and berries in your diet. 6. The bigger picture, longevity and lifestyle. Let's zoom out for a moment and look at the bigger picture. What Yoshinori Ohsumi discovered isn't just a biological process, it's a fundamental principle of healthy aging. For decades, we've approached health and aging reactively. We wait for problems to develop, then try to treat them with medications and procedures. But autophagy represents a proactive approach, preventing problems before they start by optimizing our cellular maintenance systems. This aligns perfectly with what researchers have found in the world's blue zones, areas where people regularly live to 100 and beyond. In places like Okinawa, Japan, coincidentally also Japanese, Sardinia, Italy, and Loma Linda, California, people naturally practice many autophagy-enhancing behaviors. They eat less frequently, they stay physically active throughout their lives, they manage stress effectively, and they maintain strong social connections. They're not trying to activate autophagy, they're just living in ways that naturally support this process. This gives us incredible power over our own aging process. We're not victims of our genetics or helpless against the march of time. We have tools, simple, accessible tools, to influence how we age at the cellular level. I think about people like Dr. Walter Longo at USC, who's 57 years old but has the biomarkers of someone decades younger. He's been practicing fasting-mimicking diets for years and studying their effects on longevity. He's living proof that these principles work. Remember, autophagy doesn't happen overnight. It's like compound interest for your health. Every time you activate this process, you're making a small deposit in your longevity bank account. Over months and years, these deposits add up to significant improvements in how you look, feel, and function. I want you to start thinking of fasting not as deprivation, but as a gift you're giving your cells. You're giving them time to clean the house, repair damage, and prepare for optimal function. If you're finding value in this deeper dive into cellular health, we've got an incredible community of like-minded people who share tips, support each other, and discuss the latest research. Make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell. 7. Addressing concerns and myths. Now I know some of you might have concerns about fasting. Let me address the most common myths and worries I hear. Won't I lose muscle if I fast? This is probably the biggest concern I hear. The research shows that short-term intermittent fasting, 16-24 hours, doesn't cause muscle loss when combined with adequate protein intake and resistance exercise. In fact, the growth hormone boost you get from fasting can actually help preserve muscle mass. Will fasting slow down my metabolism? Quite the opposite. Short-term fasting can actually increase your metabolic rate by 14%, according to studies. It's only prolonged, severe calorie restriction that slows metabolism. I'm worried about hypoglycemia. If you're not diabetic and not on blood sugar medications, your body is perfectly capable of maintaining healthy blood sugar levels during fasting periods. That's what your liver is for. That said, everyone's different. Some people adapt to fasting quickly, while others need more time. Listen to your body. If you feel dizzy, weak, or unwell, break your fast and consult a healthcare provider. Certain groups should be extra cautious or avoid fasting altogether. Pregnant or breastfeeding women, people with a history of eating disorders, individuals with certain medical conditions, anyone taking medications that require food. The key is to start slowly and build up gradually. Your body needs time to become fat-adapted and efficient at using stored energy during fasting periods. 8. Success stories and community. Let me share some incredible stories from our community members who've embraced the autophagy lifestyle. Robert from Texas, age 72, wrote to tell me that after 6 months of 16/8 intermittent fasting, his doctor was amazed at his latest blood work. His inflammatory markers dropped significantly, his blood pressure improved, and he's lost 25 pounds without feeling deprived. Linda from Oregon, age 65, struggled with afternoon brain fog for years. 3 months into intermittent fasting, she says her mental clarity is the best it's been in decades. She's back to reading books, doing crossword puzzles, and feeling sharp throughout the day. And here's my favorite. Carlos from Florida, age 78, started fasting after his grandson introduced him to the concept. Not only has his energy improved, but he's inspired his entire family to adopt healthier habits. 3 generations now practice intermittent fasting together. These aren't isolated cases. Our community is full of people supporting each other, sharing tips, and celebrating victories together. There's something powerful about knowing you're not alone in this journey. Speaking of community, drop a comment right now and introduce yourself. Tell us your age, where you're from, and what health goal you're working toward. Let's build connections and support each other. Friends, we've covered a lot of ground today. From a curious Japanese scientist working with baker's yeast to a Nobel Prize-winning discovery that could revolutionize how you approach your health and longevity. Remember the key points. Autophagy is your body's built-in cellular renewal system. Intermittent fasting is the most reliable way to activate it. The benefits include protection against cancer, Alzheimer's, heart disease, and accelerated aging. You can start with simple 12-16-hour fasting windows. The research is solid and the results are real. The most exciting part of this discovery is that it puts power back in your hands. You don't need expensive treatments or complicated protocols. You don't need to wait for pharmaceutical companies to develop new drugs. The solution is already built into your biology. Of course, with power comes responsibility. Please consult with healthcare providers, especially if you have medical conditions. Start gradually, listen to your body, and remember that sustainable change happens one day at a time. Imagine looking back a year from now feeling more energetic, thinking more clearly, and knowing you've actively invested in your long-term health. That future is available to you, starting today. If this video has given you a new perspective on health and aging, here's how you can dive deeper. Subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell. Share this video with someone who could benefit from this information. Comment below with your biggest takeaway or your commitment to trying intermittent fasting. Check out our playlist on longevity and healthy aging for more cutting-edge research. Remember, you're not just a passive passenger on the aging journey. You're the driver. You have tools, you have knowledge, and now you have a community of people who believe in taking charge of their health. Dr. Ohsumi spent decades in a lab to give us this gift of understanding. The least we can do is put it to good use. Until next time, keep investing in your health, keep learning and inspiring others to do the same. I'll see you in the next video.